Hello to my water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Welcome to the Leo full moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising signs listed below. Hello, Cancer Rising. Happy Leo full moon. This is happening on January the 26th at 4:54 a.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So it'll be right before the moon sets, right before the sun rises. Also, the night of the 25th will be perfect viewing of the full moon, and the night of the 26th as well. But if you wanted that exact moment, then you've got to get up really, really early before the sun rises to see it. But you probably will. Let's think about Leo. Let's think about how we can sort of align our nature with that sign. Leo is the lion, right? Leo is the sort of one that is so bold and so brave and so confident in their life. If Aries is a match, cardinal fire, then Leo is a bonfire, a beautiful, warm bonfire to worship around. A full moon in Leo is pretty powerful because it's like a spotlight on Leo. You know what I mean? It's really emphasizing this part of our journey, this part of ourselves, this part of our chart. And so for you, Cancer Rising, Leo rules the second house, which is how we have access to material stability, our money, our coin, also our values. So what we intend to do with that stuff as well. And so at a full moon, we can maybe cast our mind back to the new moon last year, 16th of August, if you can remember that far back, and think about what ambition we had around this area of our life, and then sort of celebrate that at this full moon. Celebrate our wins and our losses too. I'm not interested in you chalking up your success and failure and then judging yourself around that. You tried your best. 6 months is 6 months. This is an ongoing process. What we're going to do, really, by knowing that Leo rules our second house, is just develop our confidence around our ability to be autonomous in that way. And I'm not talking about riches forevermore and like buying houses and yachts and all that kind of stuff. No. It's simply a matter of having enough, knowing what to do with it and how to spread it around. We really need so little in this life, Cancer Rising. It's really one of the lessons that I'm so proud of. Really, I'll be honest with you. You can live off the smell of an oily rag. You can have the best time with like a bucket of water and a stick. I think I've said that before, but it's true. You don't need nothing to have a lovely life, to have a beautiful relationship, to have an incredible time. And Leo in the second house, really that's the point, I would say. Absolutely, ambition is lovely, and absolutely, having resources that are plentiful is awesome. Easing up on that fear of not having enough and fear of lack and, the terror that we all know too well about rubbing 2 cents together. I get that fully and sincerely, but I would hate for you to look at this time of the year. A full moon in Leo will tend to happen at the beginning of a year. So there's always going to be this moment to express and to release around your feelings, around resources and resourcefulness. I'd hate for you to always be critical of yourself at this time. It's the freshness here that we can enjoy together, Cancer Rising. There's potential here too. There's always room for growth, absolutely. But maybe at this full moon in Leo, really just look around your humble wares. What am I trying to say? Take stock and be grateful for what you've got. What's that beautiful song? Just be thankful for what you got. Such a good one. Do, 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 do. I can't remember. It's really good. But yeah, just be thankful for what you've got. It's a Massive Attack song, I'm pretty sure. I'll, remind me. I'll link it. I probably won't. Anyway, let's move on. There is some pressure at this full moon. So let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. The sun has just entered Aquarius, so that's in opposition to your second house. That's your eighth house, which is where we collaborate. It's where our resources are obliged or interwoven to the energy of another. It's where we sort of build something together, and also where we kind of learn the profundity of saying goodbye. There's a lot of grief attached to the eighth house too. It's a real, substantial, but sometimes kind of solemn space. Aquarius, the sign, rules this part of your chart, Cancer rising. So if we think about this like humanitarian spirit that Aquarius has, if we think about the great intellect that Aquarians have, their mind is brilliant. It's fixed air. That's a conviction right there in Aquarius. And think about that beautiful humanitarian conviction as an attachment to your collaborations and to the way that you have an ability to deal with grief too. The ceremony of saying goodbye to something very true to you. I think as a Cancer rising, being led by the moon, there's a lot of emotion attached to the eighth house that you're a master at, but also if you think about your Aquarian side, there's a great intellect there too. There's a great sort of wisdom that you're gleaning or have gleaned or will continue to glean and then share with other people around these topics as well. The sun isn't so comfortable in Aquarius, and I'll explain why, because the sun is the leader of Leo, right? The sun rules Leo. That's the opposite sign of Aquarius. And so wherever the planets are in opposition to where they're normally awesome, they can feel sort of less able sometimes. And so in that, anyone with an Aquarius sun sign, so if they were born in the season of Aquarius, sometimes might have maybe a difficult time reconciling their brilliance too, or their mind, their great, their thinking potential. There may be some things around when in the moment, in flow, no dramas. And also when focused on other people, Aquarius is so concerned with the greater workings of a society or of a collective or of a human condition that that's fine when they're in flow, but when sort of complemented, as the sun does, as Leo loves, when complemented on their intelligence, they're sort of like, what? Oh no, I'm not so sure. Like it's natural for that to sort of happen there. So working with that energy of this sun, this sort of less confident sun in Aquarius at 5 degrees, shining all of its light down to the moon in Leo at 5 degrees. What I'm looking at here in tarot is the moon, the 5 of wands, and the sun, the 5 of swords. And both of these are feeling like a bit of a competition, right? One of them's healthier than the other, I've got to say. When I look at the 5 of swords, which is the Aquarian card where the sun is right now, it looks like antagonism, and it looks like a sort of sparring match of intellect, sort of like a competition of the mind. And there's certain folks in this environment that are sort of like, no thank you, I'm out of here. And they've separated themselves. They're not participating any longer. And whoever it is that's left, that's collecting the spoils of their fight, they don't look like a winner to me. The moon is speaking to the 5 of wands, and this is competition, but this is more like conditioning. This is training. This is rehearsal. And the wands represent our magic. So Cancer rising, I would like for you to really zone in on this card. And maybe if this is showing up for you in the way that you're thinking about yourself at the moment, if I'm ragging on and you're like, nah, I'm not very smart. Like, thank you, but nah, I'm not. Like, I don't know how to find autonomy, or it's been really difficult for me to maintain autonomy with the line of work that I've chosen, or with my skill base, with my brain. I get that completely, and I understand that. I can identify with that feeling of feeling inadequate. I identify with it. I don't agree with it. You're awesome, Cancer rising, and you can do whatever you want to do. And there's something about this conditioning or this training that life is showing you right now that's going to prove to be really, really resourceful. It's going to amp up your resourcefulness to a point that'll come in really handy moving forward. I wouldn't like you to think about your bank balance as being the evidence of your worth ever again, if you can all afford not to think that way. And completely understand the system that we live under. I understand that things are getting more and more and more expensive. I understand that we're all earning the same amount of money that we are able to, but it's worth less these days, and that's maddening. I also understand the absolute improbability of stepping out of poverty. I know that story very personally, and it's one that I am working with, and it will probably be part of my mission while I'm here, is to reconcile that fact that it's very difficult to step away from the poverty line, and to manage your money like a responsible person. There's a big difference here between being irresponsible with your money and splashing it around and finding it difficult to cover the bottom line, even though you're working around the clock. And that's a class problem. That's not your problem. That's the way that society is structured, that some labour is worth more than others as well. That's something to think about too. When thinking about Leo and thinking about your second house and thinking about this preparation space, this rehearsal, these tests, maybe this is the way that you can sort of conceive your worth too, and realise that a lot of your magic is really obvious. And the way that you are so caring, Cancer Rising, and are so available for the emotions of other people is worth so much more than perhaps, fiscally our society realizes at this juncture. But it doesn't make it any less valuable in my eyes. The lessons in emotional regulation, the lessons in emotional availability, the lessons in listening to the body and understanding that the body sends signals that are different to the mind. That's a big difference between Aquarius and Cancer. Aquarius is very focused on the mind and the brain and the internal workings, the thought forms, whereas Cancer is much more in tune with the body. And as a Cancer rising, that's part of your soul's rising potential here. That's part of your inner gifts. Might not be something that you're so in tune with yet. Doesn't matter. That's what life is for. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. There is some pressure with Jupiter at present with the sun and the moon. So the sun's at 5 degrees of Aquarius, the moon's at 5 degrees of Leo. They are forming pressure, a square with Jupiter in Taurus in your 11th house, which does speak to our friends, our sense of belonging in the human group. And Jupiter is very expansive, very optimistic. A square from Jupiter can sometimes feel like overexertion or too much of a good thing. And so there's just some lingering sorts of, just some ponderances around generosity here, I think, Cancer rising, as far as how many times are you reaching into your pocket for the benefit of others. And I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money. Like, that's, your money comes, money goes. Like, you'll devote yourself to the causes that your support is valuable. But there's just something here about overexertion that just might be worth talking about at this full moon. It might not even be relevant in your life, but I can just see the pressure of Jupiter in that overexertion with the sun and the moon. It might be cause just to be like, well, not every lost dog can be, that's a hard thing to say. Of course, if something needs a meal, you'll give it. I understand. But it's also good just to sort of flag, right? The day after this full moon, Uranus is going to station direct in that same house, in your 11th house of friendships and the human condition. So Uranus is quite rebellious. It's quite a revolutionary. I like this because at that moment, when Uranus stations direct, all of the planets will be direct. So they will feel like a great big tidal wave. Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus direct. Power to our humanity. It's cool. I think that there's going to be a lot of things that change in our lives, especially around the systems, the structures of our society too, Cancer rising, hopefully for the betterment of those that have gone without for so long. Yeah, hopefully there's a sort of evening out of privilege that we can look forward to in time. Hopefully in the next 20 years we'll see that arise. Sometimes I think about the French Revolution when I think about Pluto in Aquarius. Separate to my experience, I'm not French, but something about the people claiming their rights and their power I find quite powerful. Let's get you some tarot, Cancer rising, and then we'll call it an evening. Oh, that's nice. That's nice too. Okay, I know what to say. So, we'll be feeling the gentle but persistent energy of Venus in Capricorn in your 7th house from this full moon. And they're going to spend several weeks in there. Your 7th house in Capricorn is your relationships and how they're structured, your capacity and access to love and affection. With Venus in there, that is a huge double down on that potential, on that idea. This isn't a love reading, but it looks like something similar. And I know you love love, Cancer rising. But what's happening here is there's this sort of, this is one of your cards too. The 4 of Cups is a sort of sentiment of contemplation. It says so on the top of this particular tarot deck. But it is about sort of not accepting every offer that is being granted to you. And it's being qualified by your intuitive prowess. So the High Priestess lives inside each and every single one of us. And she knows everything that you could possibly wish to ever know. She knows how every outcome is going to arrive. She knows the resolution of every conflict as well. The Fool meets the High Priestess second. They meet the Magician first and are glamored by their magic and want more. But then they meet the High Priestess and they're like, what do you got? She doesn't say anything. And the Fool has to go through their entire life to learn each and every lesson of the tarot along their way. And then at the end, they're like, I get it. It's like kind of like in The Wizard of Oz, which is quite funny. The click your heels 3 times. And sort of like, I could have done this from the beginning. Why didn't you tell me? Because you wouldn't have believed me. It's quite funny. There's a great Mad TV sketch where Dorothy's like, what the fuck? Why didn't you fucking tell me? You crazy psycho. I could have been home instantly. What is this, some kind of sick game to you? It's pretty funny. But that's kind of what the High Priestess is. It's sort of like, I can't tell you because then you won't experience it. And the only way that you're going to know is by experiencing it. So you could say that the High Priestess is our intuition. This, Venus in Capricorn, you're going to rely heavily on your intuition, and maybe there might be some offers that are sort of proffered to you in regard to connection and to love and things like that, and you'll know if you want to make the commitment and go there or if you don't. And the only way that you're going to, you don't have to accept every offer that comes your way. No offense. You also can accept the offers that feel right to you. 7th house is lovely. It's a place of collaboration. It's a place of connection. It's where our nearest and dearest lay. So think about all the people that pepper your 7th house. Think about the new moon just gone as well and the wishes that we made in that house for you. Maybe they're coming to fruition, but let the right one in. That's it, Cancer rising. I love you very much. If you're still here with me, put a lion in the comments, please, in honor of this beautiful Leo full moon. I'll be with you in 2 weeks, and we're going to speak about the new moon in Aquarius, which is very exciting, coinciding obviously with the Chinese Lunar New Year. So the 10th of February is when this is happening. You can support my work over at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. You can subscribe for 10 Australian dollars or put some money in the tip jar. I can draw your birth chart that look like that, and we can make an appointment for me to read it to you at umaruby.com, my website. If I have read for you before and you'd like something else, you can head there and choose a growth, truth, love, magic, or femme reading. So if there's a title in there that tweaks your interest, pop on over and make another booking. I love you very much, Cancer Rising. I'm looking forward to what this year brings. Take care. Hello, Scorpio Rising. Happy Leo full moon. This is happening on January the 26th at 4:54 a.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. So it's right before the moon sets for the night and right before the sun rises that this moon will be absolutely 100% full. So if you can at all afford it, you can get up early and worship underneath the moon, but it's okay. The night of the 25th will be just as juicy for you to do your full moon rituals as well, or the night of the 26th, whatever you'd like to do, however you'd like to commune with the full moon. Now, this is a Leo full moon, so it's really bold, really bright, really expressive, really dramatic. So let's just keep that in mind. As a fixed sign, you'll probably be feeling this quite sort of potently, I might say. The sun is at 5 degrees of Aquarius, which is your fourth house of your home, your root system, the base of your chart. Pluto has just entered that sign for you, Scorpio Rising, for all of us, but your fourth house specifically. The sun is shining all of its light up to the moon in Leo in your 10th house of your most public facing self. So this is where the majority of this reading will be focused, is your visibility, your career, if you have one, if that's something that you're involved in, but really it's how you're publicly perceived. This is where the spotlight is. So you might almost even feel that. You might be sort of like, wow, like all eyes on me. What's going on? It might be like, oh, my work's really being sort of like picked up, or something like that could be really showing itself for you. It also is just an awesome celebration of your accomplishments so far. If you wanted to, you could think back to August 16th of last year, 2023, and think about your ambition back then, and if there was anything that you sort of set in motion back then that you can see bearing results. But I'm not here to sort of like chalk up the wins and the losses. Like, you're a work in progress. We all are, Scorpio Rising. So just celebrate what you've achieved so far, as grand or as humble as that may be. Now, there is some pressure happening with this full moon. So the sun at 5 degrees of Aquarius and the moon at 5 degrees of Leo are in square pressure with Jupiter, who is in your 7th house of your relationships, those that are opposite to you, your nearest and dearest. And so while Jupiter does bring a great feeling of positivity and hopefulness and optimism, a square from Jupiter can sometimes feel like overdoing it, sort of like, whoa, that's a lot. So let's have a think about this trifecta in regard to your fourth house, your home, your privacy, the environment that you're creating for yourself, and your 10th house, private, public, relationships. What's the pressure there? Is your optimism that you're feeling from your loved ones at present, is that somehow infiltrating your private life or your public life? Is there, Scorpio Rising, a little conflict of interests there? Now, that could be wildly inaccurate for you, but it's an example of how this astrology might be showing up. Sort of like, don't shit where you eat. Now, that was forward of me, and it could be completely irrelevant, but that's just one thing to say. Let's look at the tarot and see if that can flesh out some of this definition too, Scorpio Rising. So let's consider the 5 of Swords as the sun. Let's consider the 5 of Wands as the moon. We can also have a chat about Jupiter too. At 6 degrees of Taurus is the 5 of Pentacles. Now, 555, obviously, in numerology, I'm not an expert, but it means change. It means real, vibrant change. So, this full moon in your 10th house could be signifying something shifting for you, Scorpio rising as well. If we consider this as the moon, this feels like repetition and training. It feels like practice, like a rehearsal. So maybe you can think about like what you've been gearing up towards over the last 6 months, over a lifetime, up until this point. We've got to take every moment as it comes. Every moment could be our last. All of those sentiments, sure. But I also believe that we're a perpetual work in progress. So I would never want you to think that you're a failure. And some of these images in here are pretty severe like that, aren't they? This 5 of Swords is a harsh one. It's kind of tough. This 5 of Pentacles is probably one of the most difficult cards in the tarot to be confronted with. So let's pass it out and translate it to what's happening on your birth chart. There could be some harsher, sort of restrictive cruelties or truths that you've been met with lately. There may have been folks either that you share your home with or that are part of your family that have been like, what the hell do you think you're doing? Like you've lost it. Like this is not happening. Or there could have been something, it feels like a competition. They both do. Whereas the 5 of Wands is much more healthy. It's preparation. It's, as I said, rehearsal, sort of getting this trick figured out, gaining, conditioning my strength. The 5 of Swords is cruel. The swords representing truth or perceived truth, thoughts being weaponized. So that's interesting to me. I hope that everything's all right. But if there has been some sort of crueler words spoken to you, Scorpio rising, this moon might sort of illuminate some of that. And probably if we can sort of step into or emulate the lion a little further, you can be like, actually, too bad, so sad. I'm really proud of what I do. I'm really proud of my contribution. I'm really proud of my work ethic as well, because I've been practicing really hard, and it may not look like a life that you would have it be, or that's not sort of comparable to your experience of a life well lived. But I tell you what, it is for me. Down here is the 5 of Pentacles, and there's a massive fear about being shut out or cut off or left out. And you can see that there's a whole bunch of warmth glowing from the pentacles that look like it's like a church door, right? Or church stained glass window, I should say. But the folks outside, there's this perception that they're not welcome inside, or there's this perception that they've sort of been cast out from this space. And that's really difficult to work with when thinking about your 7th house of your relationships. I hope that this is not your reality, specifically Scorpio rising, but if we can sort of break it down and start to think about these 3 cards and really sort of register that 555 is change, we could be moving from this perception to, I really can sort of feel some like great hope for you moving forward, Scorpio rising, and some pride regained in your public facing self. I'm not interested in comparison. I'm not interested in how other folks in your family or in your relationships would have you behave in your professional world. That's their life is theirs, and full respect. They can do what they wish. This is your life. You've only got one. And if you're expressing yourself in your 10th house, if you are like in a spotlight in your 10th house, in whatever metaphor you'd like to take that spotlight, if you're being free and fully yourself, standing up for what you believe in as opposed to what is expected of you, then this feels like we can step away from it. And the 555 is really speaking to massive change in outward perception or judgment from folks around you. I hope it's not that strict. And yeah, let's diversify, because that's a horrible feeling. And I can imagine that that would be really difficult to have such loaded expectations surrounding you when it comes to you striving for happiness and devoting your time and your energy to work that makes you feel that you're contributing, number one, but two, it makes you feel really self expressed and visible and available. Um, yeah, Leo works from the heart. Okay, so remember that too. The sign, as sort of dramatic as it might feel, um, it's really an emanation from the heart. Leo loves to love. Leo is leading by example. So maybe you can sort of see yourself in that image too, of like leading by example. You know, you want to see people in your proverbial crowd. It doesn't, you don't have to be on a stage performer or anything like that, but like your audience, as it were, the people that are consuming your work, you want them to feel recognized in it too. It's really gratifying. It's why I do what I do, is to like have deep chats with like my online friends. I love it. And it makes people feel good. Like that's sort of, I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of it. It gives my life purpose too. It gives my life context and purpose. Um, and so if that's what you're striving towards, then I say go for it, Scorpio rising. Sometimes there can be a bit of sort of fear of like being egotistical with Leo or even with the sun, you know? And I say bully to that. Like if you're doing it in your truth, in your power, in your beauty, then you know that you're not doing it for the applause. I mean, you're not Lady Gaga. I don't know why I said that. She had that song. I don't even know her work. I don't, yeah. Oh, love and light. Let's not talk about her. Let's talk about you. Yeah. Let's harness into this preparation. Leo is so here for us, ultimately. And they're the ones to sort of put themselves out there to invite others to feel that way about themselves and they really feel themselves. You know, there's nothing like sort of like being moved by someone's work, being like, shit, your work makes me feel myself. Like if you sort of, for example, if you make clothes, you know, and you see someone wear your designs, it's sort of, I imagine there'd be nothing like it. You'd be like, wow, my work, my 10th house is allowing this person to fucking live and to feel gorgeous. You know, if you do hair, it's another example, you know, whatever it is, whatever work that you do, this is the moon that's showing that to you. And it's a full moon, so you don't have to do anything. Just celebrate. Celebrate the freaking like conditioning, like an athlete that you've put yourself through to get to this point, and look forward to the future. I am. I can't wait to see what you're cooking next. Let's get you some intuitive tarot too, I think, Scorpio rising. Oh, the day after, the day after this full moon, so on the 27th, forgive me if you can hear the whippersnipper out there outside. I'm going to press on. Hopefully it's not too loud, but they just seem to be getting closer. Anyway, what was I saying? The day after this full moon, Uranus will station direct. And so Uranus is in your 7th house too. Uranus is the rebel, the revolutionary of our stratosphere. And so this is bringing to me this feeling of like kind of rebellion in your 7th house, which is very interesting to me, as a matter of fact, particularly if what I was saying about other folks and their opinions is ringing true to you. That's an interesting story to speak further to if we have to. But revolution is on the way. The way that you relate to other people, Scorpio rising, is in for dramatic change as it's been sort of developing over time as well. Like this has been sort of in the works for some time, since as long as we've been talking. And I like it. It suits you. I think that we all are enjoying in some way a revolution of self, and our relationship styles and dynamics could all do with a bit of a birthday from time to time. It's just that the astrology is speaking really clearly to that. What I was saying before about shitting where you eat, ignore it if it's not relevant, but you can see how those cards might be attached to that sort of story too. So, yeah, um, there's a time for pleasure, there's a time for work. Sometimes they can cohere, not always. It's been really lovely. There's been a couple of cards in commonality that have been coming out to say hello in these readings. And one of them is the sun, which I think is just really gorgeous. And in true Leo spirit, you know, the Leo essence is driven by the sun. A lot of the definition of Leo you could probably attribute to the planet, the sun itself. Things like sort of brightness and vitality and bravery and beauty, the giver of life, all of those gorgeous sentiments that we can ascribe to the sun, we can do to Leo as well. The sun loves it in Leo. The sun is super, super chill and happy in Leo. Your birth chart says that you're a Scorpio rising. That means that the part of the universe that was rising over the eastern horizon the moment that you were born was Scorpio. Your sun sign is something else. So if you can memorize your chart, have a think about where your sun is. Have a think about your essence, your vitality, your ego, which is not a dirty word, as much as there's a lot of schools of thought that would have you think otherwise. It's essential to have an ego as far as I can see it. That's how we translate the world around us. We perceive what's in front of us, and it comes through us, through our ego, and we create from that space. So don't be shy of your ego. Don't be ashamed if someone says that you're egotistical. Check yourself, but also check where they're coming from too. They might just be jealous. But have a look on your birth chart, see where your sun is, and lock into that too. Lock into that part of your identity. I know that these horoscopes can seem limiting sometimes because you're like, oh, I thought I was a Cancer, but I'm a Scorpio. You are both. You are everything. That's what astrology sort of teaches us. We have everything inside of us, but there's highlights here and there. I've upset someone, maybe they seem to be approaching with the whippersnipper. What I see for you, Scorpio rising, is magic. I see it loud and clear, really boldly. There's an offer coming to you that is undeniable. And it's an offer of guidance. It's really strong and mighty, and you can trust it too. I know that feeling of sort of being a bit of a wanderer, of sort of moving through life and not really knowing which way to go because no one told you. But this offer that's on its way to you, Scorpio, is guiding you, is giving you wisdom, providing you with that safety, that comfort, the comfort of knowledge. So, like, trust yourself, trust your sun. You can even comment down below, let me know what your sun sign is too. I'd be really interested. But that's your reading, Scorpio rising. So much love to you. Throw me a lion if you're still here in the comments. That would be awesome. You can subscribe to my work at buymeacoffee.com/UmaRuby. You can also send me some tip money there if you'd like. If you'd like me to draw your birth chart, they look like this. You can make a booking at umaruby.com. That's my website. And we can arrange for me to read it to you. I'll be with you in 2 weeks and we'll talk about the Aquarius new moon, which is going to be a great moment to recollect power for the human condition. We're going to reclaim the power of our humanity. So let's look forward to that together. Much love to you, Scorpio rising. Take it easy. Bye. Hello, Pisces rising. Happy Leo full moon. This is all happening on January the 26th of this year at 4:54 a.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So if you wanted to see the moon at its fullest, you're going to have to get up really, really super early. But the evening of the 25th will be perfect. The evening of the 26th will also be perfect. It'll be nice and juicy. But what we're going to do is we're going to step into our lion's den. We're going to become really super awesomely proud of ourselves and our conviction, our diligence, our ability to try. That's the major focus at this full moon. I really want to kind of express my love for the sign Leo. Leo is the sign that rules the heart space, which is really beautiful. And obviously they have a reputation for being quite dramatic, quite not backwards and going forwards, and really self-assured. But their behavior is to encourage that in those that they care about too. We all have Leo in us, in our birth charts. It's just a matter of how that shows up for us that makes the difference from person to person. A full moon in Leo will always be the best time for you, Pisces rising, to look before you and look at the structure around your work, look at your ability to repeat tasks in order to train and to learn, and also look at your ecosystem of the body, your health, how you're being kind to that body, and what conditioning are you putting that through in order to keep producing and to keep living and to keep growing and succeeding as you would want to do. So we're going to focus in on that sixth house at this full moon. We're also going to keep our eye on the sun in Aquarius, which is the 12th house of our unconscious leanings, our sort of inner, most like spiritual, darker recesses, places that call to us when we're dreaming, when we're sleeping, when we're imagining, when we're pretending, when we're lost in thought. That's the 12th house. And so the sun in Aquarius is maybe not so comfortable there because they're normally at their best effect in Leo. The sun rules Leo, which sort of adds to that feeling of like vitality and brightness and perseverance. So the sun in the opposite sign to which it's most comfortable is Aquarius. And that's sometimes why when you're thinking about Aquarius and thinking about your friends that have placements there might be a sort of second guessing kind of temperament about them. They might not be so kind of ego driven because the sun is there in Aquarius, not its best, but also they're so preoccupied with everybody else and looking out and solving the problems that they can see in the human condition. So that's the opposition, the sun and the moon. They are forming quite a tight square with Jupiter in Taurus, which is the third house of our private rituals, our communication, and our goddess worship. And when there's a square with Jupiter, pressure, there sometimes can be the compulsion to sort of overdo it or to take too much or to go the extra mile. So I think in some ways this moon is sort of really asking us to, as the new moon in Capricorn was, to prepare to go the distance and not to overexert ourselves, not to put all of our eggs in one basket and then get overwhelmed and then do nothing, not to overbuy, overspend, get really enthusiastic and then have that enthusiasm sort of peter away. We're really kind of looking at the long game here. Jupiter in Taurus is going to be really beneficial for us as far as our kind of ability to worship the goddess, ability to communicate how we're feeling, to put out what we know, to sort of share it around, to engage in magical practices. But in a square, it's sort of like, okay, hold your horses. Like let's really kind of measure ourselves so we don't burn out too quickly. In the tarot, we can look to the moon as this card. 5 degrees of Leo is the 5 of Wands. And this is the card of endurance. This is the card of practice, conditioning, rehearsal. So we're kind of thinking about our sixth house. We're thinking about how we are going to approach 2024, what our work ethic looks like, how we're going to be immensely proud of our achievements, but also how we need to refine and how we need to get better at our skills, how we need to kind of think about what we're going to put out there and what quality that is too. The sun in our 12th house, our unconscious realm, is actually in a pretty tight conjunction with Pluto. So we know that Pluto left Capricorn on the 20th of January. And sorry, the Sun entered Capricorn. The Sun entered Aquarius on the 20th of January, and then on the 21st, so did Pluto. So they were conjoined at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and then also they're in Aquarius now. So we're sort of stepping into that era of power to our humanitarian principles. And for you, this is very private, very unconscious. There might be ways in which you can see the world working and operating that you can see will be for the better. It's got a lot to do with peace. It's got a lot to do with love and connection. But at 5 degrees of Aquarius is the 5 of Swords, both in sort of testing mode, aren't they? Both in competition. One healthy, one not so healthy. This seems like an attack of the mind or a sparring match with the thought form. So somewhere deep inside of you, Pisces rising, there might be some doubt. There might be some kind of self-criticism or some lingering feelings of inadequacy that we're going to be working with at this full moon in Leo, because we can name it, we can see it, we can work with it, we can move through it. The moon is really focused in on this diligent repetition, this rehearsal room, practicing, conditioning. That square that we were talking about with Jupiter in the 3rd house has us talk about the 5 of Pentacles. And so you can see there's 3 5s here. In numerology, that means change. So we can hang on to that notion, and we can also look at this card and think to ourselves, well, why is this showing now? I see this as a feeling of exclusion, a feeling of being disallowed to enter, a feeling of warmth coming from those pentacles and comfort, sanctuary, not being offered the 2 people in front. This can add to this. These 2 cards can sort of bounce off of each other, and we can think back to times in the past where we felt inadequate, or we were told that we were inadequate, not welcome, not good enough. And so when focusing, using this beautiful bright Leo full moon to really lock into our achievements and to feel a sense of pride in how much we've worked, how much we have developed over time. These 2 at this moon might be bringing our attention back to something that feels like dejection, that feels like admonishment. You're not good enough for these reasons. You're not invited to this party. You're disallowed. You are rejected from this. This could be really ancient stuff too. This 5 of Pentacles card has me really think about the poverty line, and it has me think about folks that really struggle with resources, and the break in that circuit, the power and conviction and repetition and diligence and rehearsal that it takes to break that circuit, because that can be sort of ancestral too, that sort of line. If you come from a working class family, if you come from a space where resources and safety were tempestuous or sometimes weren't present, when it comes to sort of embarking on a new journey for yourself, where you're going to be your own boss, where you're going to be working for yourself, or producing, diligently practicing at something to build something for yourself, all of these voices can sometimes come up. And I think that that's probably what Jupiter in Taurus is sort of reminding us of this card about. It's sort of like, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. You're going to play the long game here, Pisces rising. So don't all or nothing short spurts of energy and then throw it all in the bin and forget about it, because that's going to bring you back to this space, and you're going to start believing what was said to you all that time ago. And it's absolutely categorically not true. You're incredibly capable, Pisces rising. You're incredibly committed when you want to be to your interests, to things that spark you, that make you feel alive. So let's use these natural traits of yours and let's start to build with little blocks back to a space where you can feel really ready. Because I see the rest of this year, I told you before, as being really powerful. Even the rest of this week is pretty hectic. I'll say after this full moon in Leo, on the same day, Mars will be in pressure with Chiron. So there's more to this card. There's more that we need to speak about this card, as a matter of fact, because Chiron in the second house of values, resources, money, this is the pain point that we're really passing out, we're really teasing out and looking at and discovering where some of this trauma, some of this damage came from, why you might oftentimes, not always, but that's the sort of go-to, is this feeling of I'm useless, I'm so inept, I can't do this, why do I focus on things that mean nothing? This is all of this stuff too. You're not the kind of person that succeeds. All of that terrible things that we can say to ourselves, no matter how much success we have in our life, that can still linger there if it's unchecked. But this is what Mars is really kind of pressurizing right now. You may find that there's some combat from your friendship groups or from your community that is sort of saying to you, hold up, nope, what do you think you're doing? No way, forget it. And so that's their opinion and that's fine. We can give it the importance that it needs. This might also be a sort of braver, bolshier action that you take in community where you sort of voice yourself and it's met with something that smells like rejection. But I'd encourage you to sort of pass that out too, because as much as I want to sort of amp you up and make you feel really confident and you can do anything, I think you can, Pisces. I also think that a bit of healthy repetition and practice and training would be really awesome too, so you can step into this new version of yourself with the knowledge that you have what it takes, that you can go the distance, that you've worked on these systems to a point where they're sort of starting to sort of feel like you don't need to oil them so often. They're sort of moving on their own volition now. But it might bring, there's that square that happens on the same day. So there might be just a little pang of, lack of confidence emerging. But we roll along, and then on the 27th, the day after the full moon, Uranus will station direct in your third house of magic, the goddess of your communication abilities. So the rebel arrives. All planets will be moving forward by that point. Everything has stationed direct. Everything's moving forward. So we'll go back to Taurus. We'll think about what you're revolutionizing in the way that you communicate, how you're putting your word out there, how you're worshipping, how you're enacting your rituals in order to work with the universe, to work with your goddesses, how you're singing to them, how they're singing to you. All of that stuff is sort of active on the 27th. Also, Mercury will square Chiron, so there'll be extra sort of pressure to that pain point around the second house. But I got to say, babe, go with me. This is a long game. This card actually, this moon, is going to be really helpful for us because we know that Chiron's a major focus this year. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be like, wow, I'm rolling in it, or wow, I can take care of myself, or wow, I'm finally feeling autonomous and this thing has legs. This is going to take time, and we're going to really need to think about where these limitations from the past have come from. And in fact, what are the practical limitations in your life right now? Poverty is a bitch to step away from. To commit to breaking that cycle is huge. And the baby steps that you're taking are not to be forgotten, Pisces Rising. We're going to work on this. Chiron and Mars later in the year will meet up. So Mars is going to bring some of that sort of tension that they're rising right now to help in the next couple of months. The dragon is in the second house too. So much focus on your coin, your ability to turn it over. So at this full moon in Leo, let's really spotlight, highlight the long game, the rehearsal, the conditioning. Conditioning can be used in a really derogatory way. I think about conditioning as like the muscles too. If you're in good condition, it's because you've been diligent, you've been rehearsing, you've been practicing. Let's get you some tarot. Excuse me, my voice is going. You're the last one, Pisces Rising, so let's get it over the line, shall we? There's a lot of dominoes this week, so the full moon's going to start it all off, and I see tension. I see a lot of tension, but we know that, so we can work with that. And there's humps, hills, and dales to get over, and it's all for like a good purpose. Like it's going to lead to something where you're like, huh, yeah. So turns out I'm on the right track, because Venus is in Capricorn too, and every mess or every tension, every fight that Mars is starting, Venus is going to cool. Aquarius is so concerned for the betterment of the human family. Some people say that Aquarius might be like an extraterrestrial sent from another planet, plonked on here to sort us all out. We're entering into a space where Pluto, the planet of destruction and revolution and disintegration and rebirth, all of those great buzzwords, is moving through Aquarius. We'll never know Pluto in Capricorn again after next year. We'll never know. It'll never happen in our lifetime. We will never know Pluto in Aquarius after this 20 years, and then that's it. We've never known it before. We'll never know it again. This is the moment. Things that are coming to you around the ways that systems could operate, the way that you could earn your keep, contribute to society that doesn't have you as a slave to the rhythm, that doesn't have you completely exhausted and miserable and hiding on your days off. This has all got to do with this sort of Aquarian vibe, but we've got to sort of like harness that conditioning in order to see it through, because some of it might be pretty tricky. I'm not sure. Got to remember, here in Australia, this land was invaded by the white man the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius. So that is another focus of reparation. This is the beautiful thing about the consciousness and the culture sort of growing together, is that we can't deny the past any longer. And we understand that a lot of history books were written by the hand of man and not so much the hand of woman or the hand of the oppressed, more the hand of the oppressor. So we can honor that, we can take that, and we can move forward with action from a place that is benefiting all. That's what Aquarius really wants. That's Marie Laveau. She's the queen of voodoo. That's a beautiful portrait that was painted of her in the heyday. She's got a series of keys and a series of tools right there. Marie Laveau knew how to work it. She knew how to make magic quite sincerely, and she was an incredible healer, an incredible medicine woman, and much respected in her community. And she was really generous and gregarious with her time and her energy too. She's depicted here as the Hierophant, which speaks to Taurus. It speaks to that third house of the goddess. And so what I like about this experience that we're having of Jupiter in Taurus, that enthusiasm to sort of revolutionize and to work with the goddess and to sort of really sort of harness those powers. Marie Laveau was a life's work. It didn't happen overnight. In fact, probably in her time there was a lot of dissent too. There was a lot of disrespect. She wasn't doing it for the praise or the accolades. She was doing it because it was natural to her and it meant something to her. Her channel was wide open. She could hear what Mother Nature was telling her, and she did it. And I think when you come to it, Pisces Rising, you'll understand that your intelligence that you've always had since you were a little kid, that sort of line to knowing the difference between right and wrong, knowing cause and effect, all of those sorts of things, the clarity of your mind and the clarity of your confidence and your bravery, when you had that when you were little, and obviously our lives teach us not to, but that version of you is still in there. And that version of you is the one that is ready and has the energy to practice. So practice, Pisces Rising. Practice as much as you're able. It won't happen overnight, babe, but it will happen. Much love to you, Pisces Rising. If you're still here with me, can you please put a lion in the comments? That would be sick. I will be with you in 2 weeks, and we're going to refocus our energy onto Aquarius. I'm glad I gave you that little definition, because there's more of the same to come. That's on the 10th of February. So that's the Chinese Lunar New Year as well. If you'd like to support my work, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/UmaRuby and subscribe to my channel or put some money in the tip jar. If you'd like me to draw your birth chart and read it to you, you can make an appointment at my website, umaruby.com. Love your company, Pisces Rising. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.